Welcome, eyes of the wheel. Negative thinking. Okay. This is one that we can get really trapped in. And I know what it's like because it's kind of like a snowball, and it starts and then it just piles and piles and rolls and rolls and rolls and gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then it's something that feels like, holy, I just want to see outside of this. And that negative thinking can be linked to a circumstance that you have within your life, something that you feel like you can't control, something external, a relationship, a job, a place that you're in, a thing that you have that's breaking down, whatever it is. And the negative thinking just sticks. It has a heavy, very tense kind of energy, and it kind of sucks you in, and you can feel that you start to enclose. Like, you can feel like yourself literally getting smaller if you paid attention, a little bit to how you feel inside, or how you're holding your body when negative thinking comes in. It's like a very small, enclosed type of suffocating feeling. And this can also be in the realm of self-doubt or self-sabotage, negative self-talk about, towards your own appearance, or the way you talk, or the way you show up, or how you are in the world. And that can get very obsessive as well, and just constantly trying to shift how you're being, or be something that doesn't feel right for you, or change something outside of yourself, just so you can feel a little bit of relief from that negative thinking pattern, or reaching for a distraction of some sort. Okay. Now, what do we do about this? Okay. I would say that myself and you are a lot more expansive, a lot more insightful, and a lot more open-minded and aware and intuitive, knowing what is right, than myself or you maybe give yourself credit for. Okay? And when we get stuck in this negative thinking, we have to understand that that's only one tunnel to look through. That's only one type of plane that we're looking through. And then everywhere we look, it's there, it's there, it's there, and then it starts to get overlaid onto everything. Now, is that the only reality? No, absolutely not, right? Now, it gets challenging if a lot of other people share that same tunnel of reality with you, and they're agreeing with your negativity towards, this, or this, or even to yourself, which would be really harsh. That's kind of like, bullying. If you're taking on bullying and then adding it to your sense of self that you already don't feel great about, then it's like reinforcing that tunnel. It just gets thicker and thicker and thicker, and it's like big barriers. And now it's like, okay, how do I even see outside of it? Or maybe it's been there for such a long time that you don't even know how to get yourself outside of it. What we have to understand with this is that our thoughts are very, 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 very powerful. Okay? And what they're doing is they're overlaying onto reality a experience that maybe we want or maybe we don't want. Regardless, it's happening. So the raw experience of life, let's take this down really, really simple. So raw experience of life, it's raining outside. Then the thinking on top of it, it's such a dreary day. Oh my gosh, I haven't seen the sun in so long. This makes me so sad. What an awful bleh. And the rain, I just hate it. Everything gets wet and ugh. Or there's the raw experience, and then the thinking is, oh wow, what a gorgeous experience this rain is. I love the smell of it. I love the sound of it. I love how cleansing it is. It feels like it's cleansing me from the inside out, just watching it and just being a part of it. And how beautiful is it to see the clouds and to have this sense of just, you know, like stillness or ease that, you know, a rainy day brings. It's cozy, it's good. Now, the person that picks, you know, one reality over another is going to have completely different days, right? The person that wakes up and sees the rain and is like, oh my gosh, what a dreary, awful, sad day, then that starts to snowball into everything else they do for the rest of the day. Oh my gosh. Oh, like this is so hard and I don't want to go to work today, and then that person didn't look at me very nice, and then all the things. It starts like you see more and more and more negativity because you've locked into that tunnel. Okay? And then when you've locked into the tunnel, maybe in the morning of like, oh, this is a very, you know, beautiful, calming, cleansing day, then maybe you have a little bit more of a skip in your step, you know, you're breathing in nature, you're a little bit more kind to the people around you, you get more smiles back, and you have a completely different day, right? So that kind of like builds on itself as well. Now that's a very simple example, but you can take that example into any sort of negative thinking process that's going on, right? So back to my point of saying that you are so much more powerful and aware and insightful than you may think you are when you're in a negative thinking cycle or trap, is the number one thing you want to give yourself within that space is perspective. Now, if you're completely in that tunnel and absorbed in it, and the negative thinking is you and you're that, and then everything you look at is negative, that's just, you know, the everything. It's really hard to see outside of it or to see how you're going to get out of that. You're probably going to feel very stuck, okay? So you have to give yourself perspective. Now, there's two great ways to give yourself perspective. Three great ways. Another one just came to me, just a different variation of one of them. Okay, so these are things that I have practiced. All these things I have practiced. The simplest thing for you to do, absolute simplest, which may seem a little like scary, it may take a little bit of courage, it's okay because you're doing it by yourself likely. If you want to start off that way, or if you have a close friend, you can do it with them. So a huge part of what I did to start to understand what was happening within my mind is I spoke out my thoughts and everything I was thinking about the situation, like completely unedited, like just, oh, this and this, and I felt, you know, this and this is hard, and, you know, and whatever came out, like stream of just talking. And I would record that on my phone. Okay? So I did this initially to friends because we would do this to each other. We would just kind of talk out our day. You know, we'd be like, okay, like this is happening, or a few days or a week, and you know, this is how I felt about it, and then this happened and this is how I felt about it. And then what ended up happening though, which was a huge wake up for me, which was great that I was sharing with a friend, but the biggest wake up call for me was I started listening to myself. So I thought, oh, I'm just gonna listen to my own voice note that I just sent. Sometimes they were 15 up to 30 minutes long of me explaining what was going on just in my thoughts. Now, it doesn't have to be that long. It can be 2 minutes, it can be 30 seconds, right? Like it doesn't have to be a certain length of time. But I would go back and I would listen to it. And like maybe you're thinking, oh, that takes so much courage. Like the typical thing to say is, I hate how my voice sounds. Oh, I can't believe I sound that way. And it's just new. It's just new. You know, hearing your voice, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just a new experience. And new experiences, you can feel like vulnerable and, you know, sometimes just close up and think, oh gosh, I don't want to see that. But although I had a little bit of those thoughts too, when I started listening to it, I was kind of feeling the same thing. I was like, oh, there's my voice. But then about 2 to 3 minutes in, I recognized like it's totally fine. Like, my voice is fine. You know, I had no resistance to it. And then I ended up getting a lot out of listening to myself talk. Like, so much, I can't even begin to tell you. Like, and the more you do this, the more perspective it's going to give you into your life, because you're sitting there now as like the witness, like you're just observing, you know, like what you're talking about as you're listening to it. You're just observing it non-judgmentally, and you're holding the space to listen to yourself talk about your own life. And that really, really wakes you up out of your tunnel. It really, really does. And maybe it's just incremental to begin with, and maybe it's a little uncomfortable and takes a little bit of courage to begin with, but then that insight that you're getting is substantial into your own mind and how everything is kind of going. Because in our lives, it's very, very difficult for us to actually know what is happening within our thought processes, especially if we have no silence. If we're trying to do multiple things at once, or if we're doing any other activity while we're thinking, then they're happening at the same time, and you're not actually really grasping what thoughts are really coming through and how that's really projecting out onto your reality. It's just kind of happening. So when you record yourself and then give yourself that time to listen to yourself, then you're sitting in silence. You're sitting in this place of openness, of receptivity, and then you're listening to what is going on within your mental processes, and it wakes you up. You're like, whoa, holy, I didn't even realize that's, you know, the whole story and what was, you know, happening. And you'll probably get a lot of insights into your own life just through yourself, clarity, and see the whole thing in perspective by doing that. Like, and by perspective, I mean that you're the space that's open, and you're listening to the voice note, which is that tunnel, which is that negative thought tunnel, and you are the space, and then you can see, oh, there's my negative thinking. But it isn't so bad. Like, there's a lot of other aspects going on in my life that are not very negative, that are very, very positive, and you just kind of have that realization. And the more you do that, the more you get to know yourself. Okay? And the more you get to know yourself, the more you're able to navigate your thinking processes and how that's kind of splaying out into your reality. Okay, so giving yourself perspective like that is a great way to just kind of wake yourself up to the tunnel that you're stuck in. Now, another way that you can do that is by writing, right? Like, you could journal the same thing out. You could just journal out, like, unedited writing, like whatever you think about the situation, you know, whatever you think about. Maybe it's yourself, like negative self-talk, you're writing it all out, or like negative, you know, about a circumstance in life, or about a relationship, or about a family member, or about whatever it is. And then you can look back and read it and also give yourself that perspective. Now, I did that, and personally for me, I thought the voice notes were another level higher because I could actually hear my voice, which really like personalized it a lot. It made me really snap in and be like, you know, that's really you talking about your life there. And another level of it is you can feel the energy through the voice, like through your own voice. And you can hear really how the negative thinking is affecting your emotions and your feeling as you listen to it. So it's a much more deeper experience. So I highly suggest those ways of giving yourself perspective, and super easy. Like, you don't need a friend that you can do this with. You can just open up the voice recorder within your phone or within your laptop or whatever, and just hit record. No one else has to see it. No one else has to listen to it. It's just you for you, and you can take some space in solitude by yourself and just listen back to it. Now, that is courageous, it's insightful, and it will really, really deepen the relationship you have with yourself. Okay, so I highly suggest doing that for giving yourself perspective, okay? And then another way of doing it is by giving yourself silence. So say you don't have time to do that or whatever, which I'm sure you do. I'm sure you could take 5 minutes or 2 minutes out of your life and just, talk into your phone in silence in your car or something about what's going on, and then listen to yourself at that moment or later. But if you are really crunched or whatever, and you're just, I just want something that I can just do, you could just insert silence into your life. So take your next drive in complete silence. Take your next walk in complete silence. Take your next lunch in as much silence as possible, right? If you can, deter from a lot of the external noise, if that's possible. You don't have to, right? But that's just another option. Now, the silence will give you perspective as well, because when you sit in silence, it's just you and your thoughts. And then you can start to have more insight into what you're thinking about. And if you practice doing that non-judgmentally, so you're not like thinking the thoughts and then beating yourself up for the thought, like, oh gosh, can't believe I had that thought. Oh wow, I shouldn't be thinking that way. Oh, and you just not add anything, but just like innocent, like observation of your thought and what thoughts are coming through, then you can get some more insight into, oh wow, this is what I'm thinking right now. And then that's creating a negative experience in my life. Right? Because if someone beside you or someone else was not having those thinking processes that you were, they could be experiencing the exact same life that you are and have a completely different experience just because their thinking about it is different. So give yourself that perspective by listening to yourself, writing and reading it, or sitting in silence practicing non-judgmental observation of what is going on within your thinking processes, okay? So I'll leave it at that. That's a very basic, like really good first step that you can really start to feel like you're increasing your awareness around your experiences that you're creating through negative thinking. And you're so powerful and so insightful. I know through doing that process, you're gonna wake yourself up a little bit out of that tunnel and start to feel a little bit of room to breathe because you're seeing it for what it is, okay? So those are some amazing practical tools. They have been huge, huge, huge within my journey, and I still use them. So I wish you all the best, and please comment or ask any questions that you'd like. I am here to support you, and subscribe to my channel so we can continue to share this wonderful knowledge and wisdom with more of the world, so more of us can feel empowered and strong and like we know what to do in those tough little circumstances of negative thinking within our lives. Thank you so much for listening. Eyes of the Wheel.